This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief live on the Blood Red channel after Liverpool went top of the Premier League table with a beautiful late winner from Roberto Firmino. Plenty of talking points to get into tonight, but the main one is that it just looked like Jurgen Klopp's men were set to be frustrated. But of course, Jose Mourinho's team didn't quite hold on in the end. Andy Robertson's perfect corner was met full on by the Firmino forehead. Joining me to analyse the action and give you all of the post-match reaction that you need is Theo Squires. Theo, for Liverpool, that certainly seems like a big win.
Yes, very much so. Like you think all the way through last season, these were the games that made Liverpool champions, where they'd grind away, and just as you had that first seed of doubt that they might not be able to get over the line, they popped up with a late winner. I think that feeling, it's slowly been lost a little bit this season, not because there's anything wrong with Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, but just because this season has taken its toll on all the teams, that they are going to get tired, they're not going to be able to get it over the line. But as we've seen time and time again, Liverpool, there's something special in their build-up, in their setup, in their mentality. When it really matters, you can count on this team, you can count on this squad to deliver, to get it over the line. And when it was getting to those last 10 minutes, they looked the team more like scoring. They hadn't had too many chances to threaten Lloris, but they kept going. And a brilliantly worked goal, really nicely taken header to seal all 3 points and send the Reds top of the table.
Yeah, it feels all the more special, of course, because there was a couple of thousand fans inside Anfield. I'm sure every single one of them would have enjoyed that. But I think just, on the performance and the result over the course of the 90 minutes, it was a win that I think Liverpool just about deserved. Obviously, Tottenham had a couple of chances in that second half, but there was only really one team who really went all out to win that match.
Yeah, because Liverpool were in control for the majority of the first half, and then Tottenham equalised out of nothing. But despite Liverpool being in control, boasting all this possession, they didn't really properly threaten Hugo Lloris. Now, they had chances, but how many of those shots, like they were too tame, like it was falling on Mohamed Salah's right foot, or Spurs got a block in the way. And it's like quite telling that the opening goal came from a very heavy deflection. But Liverpool still, they played like the best team in the country. There's always that arrogance about them now that they know how to perform together. It's been the same team, the same squad for a number of seasons now, and they've just got faith in their ability to perform. As you say, fans in the stadium there, I think it's been a big part for these games. Like we saw it the other side at Craven Cottage, that with fans, these teams do raise their performances when they've got the home crowd behind them. And then when you're paying tribute to Gerard Houllier as well, it's going to be a very emotional affair. And Liverpool stood up and delivered, and it was a performance and a victory that Gerard, I'm sure, would be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. A really good performance from everyone. Firmino is the obvious one, I think, to pick out, not just because of the goal, but I thought he knitted Liverpool's play really well tonight. I think over the last couple of games, it's been a notable improvement from him in just his general performance levels. And of course, the match-winning goal right near the end there can't do any harm, can it?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you go through the Liverpool squad, he is the player who deserves that sort of moment the most, isn't he? He's been improving, he's working hard, but he's always going to have this cloud over him that he doesn't score enough goals, and he doesn't really need to. We keep saying this time and time again. It is not his job in the team to provide the goals, but when you've got a game where, say, a Sadio Mane isn't scoring or Mohamed Salah isn't scoring, that's when you start asking question marks, and there's been the added pressure from Diogo Jota coming in and scoring pretty much every time he played. And Firmino, he's just come and got this massive moment, and it's quite nice that it's come from a set piece, because I think every time Liverpool got a set piece throughout that game, you're just screaming for Virgil van Dijk. Like, Spurs looked a bit shaky. Liverpool just didn't have the right player to take advantage where it mattered in the moments and the spaces on the pitch. That mattered. And then Firmino, we know he's good in the air. It's a really good header. It's one Van Dijk would be proud of, and just need a few more moments like that from him between now and the rest of the season.
Yeah, speaking of Virgil van Dijk, of course, he's still out. One man to step up really tonight for his Premier League debut was Reece Williams. It was a big call, team news-wise, to put him in there. Obviously, Joel Matip picked up a back injury against Fulham on Sunday, but Reece Williams just stepped up against Son and Kane, put in a really, really good performance tonight.
I think it was a surprise to see him start, not because he's done anything wrong when he has played, but I think there's that feeling that Nat Phillips maybe is more experienced option. He'd have been there to go up against Harry Kane. But Reece Williams has showed you don't need to have any doubts about his ability. Granted, he might have been playing for Kidderminster in the conference last season, but he's got, 6 Champions League appearances under his belt. He's played really well in the top European competition against some exciting teams, against some exciting players. And it's one of these weird facts of the season so far that he'd played against Atalanta and Ajax and all this. Like, he played against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, but he still hadn't played in the Premier League. And now he's gone against the best English striker there is, probably the most informed player in the division alongside Mohamed Salah there is. And he's kept them quiet for the majority. His pace really helped him out at times. Granted, Spurs got in a couple of times behind Liverpool's defence and they threatened a couple of times, but that's why they're such a dangerous team. Like, the top teams will do that. And Reece Williams, he's only a young kid. You can't expect a flawless game from him week in, week out when he's still learning. It's a Premier League debut. But Liverpool can have faith in that performance tonight, because I think if you're talking about the rest of the season now, with Van Dijk out for the majority, Gomez out for the majority, do we really have any faith that Joel Matip is going to stay fit and be available for every single game? No, we don't. And that's ignoring the fact that we've got these fixtures that's even more congested because of the backlog of games where they're beginning playing 2-3 times a week. Joel Matip, even when he is fit, is going to have to miss matches. It's what's already happened so far this season. And while they've had to put Fabinho there and he's done amazingly, Jordan Henderson did a good job against Fulham, you don't want to be playing your midfielders out of there because you still need one of those players in the midfield. And it's just Liverpool, they've done it again, haven't they? They've got these younger players that can just step up into the team and deliver. We've seen it with Trent Alexander-Arnold over the last few years. Curtis Jones, he's having an incredible season in midfield. And if that's the sign of Reece Williams' Premier League debut against one of the top teams he can face, against the top attackers he can face, bring it on. He's another option as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we pick up on a couple of other performances, VAR coming up fairly frequently in the comments. Liverpool were slightly annoyed, I think, that they didn't get a penalty for the handball or supposed handball from Eric Dyer. And the offside was very quickly decided that it was onside for the Heung-Min Son goal. It doesn't matter now, of course, Liverpool won anyway. But just to quickly touch on those, I think both of those calls were correct in the end.
They're very, very, very tight calls. And it's what's annoying about all the new rules in football. Like, before they tweak the handball rules every season, you don't try and claim that as a penalty. It's just because now, contact on the hand in the box, you're appealing for everything. VAR, before that, we're all firm believers of give the benefit of the doubt to the forward. It's only when you slow it down and look at all these lines on the pitch that you want that added scrutiny. I think Liverpool, they'll feel aggrieved because of the goal they've had disallowed earlier in the season. I'm thinking of the one in the derby, Sadio Mane for Henderson's strike. And there have been these moments where they've been hard done by and there is lacking that consistency. And it's just going to be the case that no one seems to know how to interpret the rules. And when it's going to be different individuals week in, week out in the VAR studio, on the pitches, making these calls, there is not going to be any consistency. And it's just why it's such a mess at the moment. And they need to just sit down in a room and get all on the same page. They're not implementing VAR the right way. And I'm saying this after they've probably made the right call. And that's what is wrong with this technology. Like, you compare it to Hawkeye, goal line technology. If a ball is over the line, fair enough. You can't argue with that. It is one or the other. With this, you miss benefit of the doubt to the forwards. You miss the beauty of a timed run. Like, it was a great run from Son to get him behind the defence. It was a really good finish from him. It was a brilliant pass. You just applaud that. It was a great goal. But then if he's going to have VAR ruling him by the tiniest of margins, onside or offside, it loses that beauty, doesn't it? I don't like that in this game. And it's just what VAR has brought now. We've talked about all the positives that it's supposed to bring. And whether you agree with that or not, it's just making it robotic. You lose that humanity and it's just, you lose some enjoyment out of it. You're waiting for these decisions. You can't celebrate goals, penalties, whatever. And it's something we're going to be saying week in, week out, every single incident until there is some consistency to it.
Yeah, just to clear up those two instances, it wasn't a penalty on Eric Dyer because the ball was too far up his arm, and the Son offside was very quickly decided because, of course, it was foot to foot rather than trying to work out where on his shoulder and things like that it was. But yeah, certainly something for VAR to think about, I think, in terms of those offsides. If you just use the feet all the time, I think tonight showed a pretty decent example of how quickly those decisions can be made. So certainly one to watch out for. Just before we go, I think we should pick out another couple of Liverpool players. Curtis Jones, brilliant 70 minutes from him. Thought he got a little bit tired towards the end. And Gini Wijnaldum as well alongside him. Again, absolutely brilliant from the pair of them.
Well, with Curtis Jones, I think our regular viewers, our regular listeners, they'll know how big a fan I am of him. I'm still banging this drum saying if he keeps up this season the way he's going now and he's still in the team, he should be going to the England squad for the Euros. He is that talented. He's not playing like he's a 19-year-old. He's just so mature, and you can tell there's a talent there. You enjoy seeing him on the ball. You take delight in seeing him run at teams and cause an issue. He doesn't look like a child or a kid, whatever, learning his trade in the Premier League. He looks like a mature, established player. And this is him when he's a teenager in his first, full season as a proper first-team player. Imagine what he's going to be like in a year or two when he's had the game time. And it's not a case of, but before we've said he's been doing it in the League Cup games or the FA Cup games against lesser opponents. He's now doing it in the Champions League. He's now doing it in the Premier League against the top sides. Liverpool have unearthed a gem. And the fact that he has just played another 90 minutes and he's stood out. He's been probably one of the best players on the pitch. And when you look at the options that Liverpool have got to come back into that midfield, when you've got Thiago still out injured, Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita are back, but they didn't get on. It shows how well he's playing, that he's going to be able to keep them out the side. He's in possession of the shirt at the moment. And granted, he will have to lose it sometimes just because of fitness and how it's going with the fixture list. But he is the one in possession, and he doesn't deserve to lose it. When he's available and he's playing like he is, keep him in. As for Gini Wijnaldum, well, he's playing like a man who's fighting for his Liverpool future. He's probably in the best form of his Liverpool career. He might not be getting the goals and the assists that you see when you watch him on international duty for Netherlands, but you can see why he's been linked with Barcelona, why Jurgen Klopp says how much he wants to keep him. Like, there has been the similarities to the Emre Can situation, but I think Klopp's been a bit more vocal about he wants to keep him. He wants him as part of this squad. Like you can say before, there's so many options there. Players are going to be missing out and not getting the opportunities. But Liverpool do need these experienced players. They do need these options. And he is one of the leaders in this camp. If he does leave at the end of the season, it will be a huge loss for the Liverpool squad. Such a popular player, and it's the one that they need to get them over the line, especially in a season where they've lost Van Dijk for a majority for injury. And when you've got James Milner sidelined, he is a leader and he is one of the star players in recent weeks.
Yeah, he certainly was a standout tonight against Tottenham. Just a final question then from me to you, Theo, is from what you've seen tonight from Tottenham, are you now convinced that they could really challenge Liverpool at the top of this Premier League table?
Yes, I am. And I think I would have been regardless of the result tonight, regardless of the performance tonight, because it's a strange Premier League season. It's not going to be like last season, the season before, where you have Liverpool, Manchester City fighting until the very end, tooth and nail, just the two teams running away with it. You are going to be in a situation this year where you've got 4 or 5 teams who could be in the hunt right up until March. You just need to stay clear, be in that mix, and then finish strong. I'd have been very happy with the draw tonight because it means Liverpool are still keeping up with the pack at the top. They're still leading it joint with Spurs. And while it's a blow for them mentally, they've shown how much they've improved under Mourinho since he's come in. Like, there were doubts about him at first, but the team have really adapted how he's playing. Son and Kane are playing some of their best football. And when you've got 2 players like that, the same as you say, you can never write Liverpool off because of the front 3. You can't write Spurs off because of those options. And the manager, he's got his spark back. And when it is going to be up for grabs, we're not going to be talking about 98, 99, 100 points winning the Premier League. We're going to be talking around 80. Spurs are very much in the hunt, but then so are 3 or 4 teams behind them.
Yes, certainly it was an impressive showing for Tottenham, but certainly an even more impressive showing from Liverpool. That's all we've got time for on tonight's debrief after a huge win for table-topping Liverpool. Stay tuned across the Blood Red channel for Jurgen Klopp's post-match press conference, and of course there'll be plenty more content to come across Blood Red and the Liverpool Echo over the next few days. Attention now turns to Crystal Palace in the Premier League on Saturday afternoon. Until then, though, from myself, Matt Addison, and from Theo Squires, it's goodbye for now.
This is the Blood Red Podcast.